There's something about RPG games that add quality of life to the overall experience comes from the side features that it offers, whether it be side quests, extra bosses, bonus dungeons, mini games, you name it. All of these can make or break the overall experience of the world in an RPG game. Throughout the evolution of the experience of RPG games over the years, developers have emphasized and molded out mini games and features that have been so massive that they have seen their own fanbase build and even have standalone products as a result of this unexpected outcome. Today, we will be exploring one of these possible breakthroughs, and that is Queen's Blood. This is different from the typical lore videos I cover on the channel, but I have thought of expanding the kind of content I do on this channel to do more than just lore videos. I like reading on any updates, articles, developer, or community thoughts, secret little details, Easter eggs, collaborations, you name it. I have also opened a members channel for anyone who wants to join. If you like the work that I do and want to further support it, consider becoming a member of the channel. You will have early access to the videos before they go live, as well as bonus member-only videos and other types of content. Some of you may know I have also been streaming Final Fantasy Rebirth as well. As of this recording, I am doing it on YouTube, but I will be heavily promoting my Twitch with it since I want to transfer everything there eventually and play more games, with so many out that I want to try. Now, on to Queen's Blood. Now, I had this thought because of an article that I read about the possibility of Queen's Blood, a mini card game in Final Fantasy VII's Rebirth, having expansions within the game. For those who haven't played Queen's Blood, it is a card game in Rebirth where you can create a deck of monsters that can control spaces in the board depending on its structure, with each monster having value points. Each player takes turns placing monsters onto the board on each player's side, but as you place monsters, they can take control of additional spots on the board that allow you to place even more monsters, or better yet, overtake spots on the board that your opponent has already claimed, but not yet to place a monster, allowing for some very interesting strategies, especially based around board control. The basic strategy I like to follow when playing this game is to establish board control before I do what is called point slamming, where I just place the most powerful monsters on the board without any regards to their abilities. The goal of the game is score more points than your opponent, and that is determined by individual points in each row, eventually adding up to your final score. So how you score in each row is important, and why board control is a strategy I always implement in my approach to Queen's Blood games. It also has a beautiful background, with a castle on top, 2 dragons on the side that animate when you win a game, and weighing scales that are used to determine your points using chips. In this article, which I'll link below, talks about Naoki Hamaguchi teasing the possibility of a Queen's Blood expansion in the future, probably via content updates. We haven't decided anything in terms of future development for Queen's Blood, but so far the media who played it have provided very positive feedback on it, so we want to consider future expansions as a possibility. Now, of course, this is simply a tease and not a definitive and concrete plan, but it does leave me wondering for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that I enjoy playing Queen's Blood. As someone who is a massive TCG fan and player, I always like exploring new card games and playing them either casually, semi-competitively, or competitively, so the TCG fan in me would like the possibility to see this expansion in the future. The second reason is that this brings me back to the days of The Witcher 3, when I had similar feelings with its minigame, Gwent. When a fanbase was building around the card game for The Witcher, it eventually led to requests for the card game to have its own platform, and CD Projekt Red finally pulled the trigger on this and created the standalone card game, which I was a part of the majority of 2017 to 2021, from playing casually to casting in tournaments, and even posting some deck guides myself and posting them on YouTube. For those who are not familiar with Gwent, the point system is actually similar to Queen's Blood, where you play cards that have value points on rows on the field. Only, you are not sharing the rows with your opponents, but their abilities can debuff cards on your opponent's side of the field. So while you are still trying to fight for board control, you are not doing so in the literal approach that Queen's Blood takes it. In order to win a game of Gwent, you have to win 2 out of the 3 rounds by having more points on your side of the board than your opponents. A third reason, which is shown in the article, is that the developers have created a physical copy of the game available to be played, which I wonder if the game gets enough popularity, they may release it for fans to play in real life. Being from the West myself, I would love to see it here one day, and perhaps I can play it with my friends and showcase that gameplay here on the channel. I really enjoyed the game, but unfortunately the game was unable to expand the substantial fan base because of different factors, with the TCG market being mostly dominated by Hearthstone, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and Magic the Gathering, as well as the resources it took within the team to provide constant updates. So eventually, and actually very recently, the game was shifted in that the community now controls which cards get updated, and CD Projekt Red no longer hosts esports tournaments, but the game itself is still available to play and the servers are still open. Anyway, seeing this just reminded me of all that because I think the door could possibly be open for a possible Queen's Blood fanbase to have its own standalone scene. Now, I'm no game designer, but I do like sometimes prying into that world of game development and just seeing the possibilities could be amazing. I do know that Final Fantasy has its own physical card game, but I have never personally played it myself as it is not popular where I am. And personally, I kind of prefer playing card games online since most of my friends are usually Magic players in real life, but if in the future Queen's Blood does become a standalone card game with its own competitive scene, I may actually dabble in that, as I already enjoy playing the game itself in Rebirth. Although what I'm probably going to focus on if this does come to fruition is how the game will be advertised and what kind of possible changes will come with it. In the case of Gwent, when it was expanded to a standalone, the mechanics of the game was changed by adding different abilities, as well as removing a row, making it 2 in the standalone whilst the minigame had 3. What would be some possible changes I could see with the game? Well, apart from probably adding more cards, possibly from different entries of the franchise, I could possibly see a bigger board, maybe going from 3 rows to possibly 4. That could add more variety to what kinds of abilities can be made with the monsters, including what spots on the board they can affect, and which ones they can boost or debuff. I think the developers can do a lot with this kind of mechanic. While doing something like this will add some time to how long each game is played, while I definitely like that the minigame itself is rather short each time you play, it would be good to extend that playtime a little bit if it does become its own thing. Maybe having different game modes with different rules can also be a good twist to add some variety to the gameplay as well. As someone who plays card games, I always like playing alternative rule sets for them in order to refresh my mind and play something new within the same game. In terms of the artwork, I am a sucker for it, and Gwent was one of the best designed card games I have ever played. And Queen's Blood does look beautiful in its own right, so I wouldn't be against keeping the same art concept they did in the minigame. I am not naming anything too specific because this is still very early and of course we are just speculating, but regardless, I'm excited for such an opportunity. If a competitive scene for the game comes to life in the future, I will probably think about engaging in it myself to see what the environment is like for the game. If you are a fan of the game or the card games in general, what are your thoughts on this possibility? Also, if they did decide to go through and expand this even further, what possible changes or additions could you see happening with the game? Let's explore with some designs for a little bit here. Feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you enjoy seeing content that is different from the usual lore videos I do on the channel, leave a like on this video so I know to make similar videos. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and I will see you all in the next video.